Well, hello again and welcome to Ibrox. Now, before we talk about anything which happened on the pitch out there's only one place to start tonight, isn't there? And that's with news that Allan Saint-Maximin looks set to leave Newcastle. He's in talks over a move to Saudi Pro League club Al Harvey. Wasn't here tonight for the 2-1 victory over Rangers, and we'll bring you up to date with the news first of all, before I then go into a little bit of opinion as to what I think over this development. Now, the news, as we understand it, is that talks have taken place in the UK today, I think, with regards a move that Newcastle hope will be worth, I think, up to around £30 million. Now, the clubs haven't yet reached an agreement on fee. I think there might be a little bit of work to do in that regard. But yeah, I think the most Newcastle are going to get for Saint-Maximin is probably around 30 million. We'll come to whether we think that's good business in just a moment. But yeah, we've just spoken to Eddie Howe down on the touchline there, and listen, Eddie could have straight battered it, could have just said he can't talk about something which is live. Fair play to him, he didn't do that at all. Very forthcoming with information, confirmed that Saint-Max wasn't here because he is in those talks over a move away. And he went further than I thought, really. When asked why, he said, well, he's a player I don't want to lose. He's a player I would like to keep at the club, but because of financial fair play, because of all these things we've spoken about previously, because of on the back of the information contained in the story I wrote in May that people didn't like about a limited restricted budget of around £75 million. Now, that is the reason someone like Saint-Maximin has to be sold in order to bring in players such as we expect the likely arrival of Harvey Barnes. And yeah, like I say, Eddie was strong in his quote. He said, FFP has forced this to a degree. Said he would have preferred to, like I said before, preferred to have kept the player, but if they want to recruit the players they want to this summer, then trading is something they have to do. When asked how many he would like to bring in, he said a couple, and that takes us on to what will the identity of those players be. Well, certainly Harvey Barnes. We wrote a story on Mail Sport earlier today, myself and my colleague Tom Colomossi. The information we have is that has moved a step closer, and I wouldn't be at all surprised to see Harvey Barnes at some point, if the Maxi deal does go through, perhaps even join Newcastle on their pre-season tour of the States at some point over the weekend or even early next week. So we'll have to wait and see on that one. The other player who Newcastle remain in talks for is the defender Tino Livramento. Now, Saint-Maximin going, this one really has split opinion, and I'll give you mine, because I must admit, a lot of the reaction before I tweeted something before the game. My information was just before kick-off the sale of Saint-Max was moving in, quote, the right direction. Well, some of the replies, and I understand this, were, well, the right direction would be to reject the move. I get that, okay, and let's talk about this, because I remember being at the True Faith Live event at the Comedy Club when some of the Newcastle hierarchy were there at the end of the season, and we went down the panel, myself, my fellow journalists, and a couple of the guys from True Faith, and the question was, would it be a good move, or would it be a good move for Newcastle to sell Saint-Maximin, and would they be likely to do it? Now, on both fronts, I said yes. I thought they would sell him this summer. That has long been the information coming out, that even last summer there was almost a mandate put out to sell Saint-Max if someone could get, a club was willing to pay £40 million. I've always said, haven't I, the clubs who want Saint-Max can't afford that. The clubs who can afford that don't want them. That is where the Saudis come into that. Well, they're not going to get £40 million. I think over the course of the past 12 months, his value probably has decreased, given injuries and and form as well, to a degree. And that takes me on to the point I make. So when the argument was put as to why supporters wanted to keep Saint-Max at the club, and some journalists too, the listed games against Man City last year, Wolves, and a couple of others. Well, my point was, you've almost answered your own question there, because you've listed 3 or 4 matches. Eddie Howe isn't a 3, 4, 5 a match a season player. You're allowed 3 or 4 bad ones, not 3 or 4 good ones. You've got to be at it for 34, 35 games a season, and that just isn't Allan Saint-Maximin. It's not, and I think you've got to accept that. There's a reason Eddie Howe, as much as he says to us down there, that he would like to keep him, there's a reason he is going. If he really, really wanted to keep him, he wouldn't be going. I think he accepts that he is a tradable asset, and one you can make an upgrade on. Now, okay, upgrade. Is Harvey Barnes an upgrade? He is for me. During my periods when I was banned from from St James's Park under the previous manager. My Daily Mail desk, sent me down to Leicester quite regularly. As if it wasn't punishment enough not being allowed into St James's. But no, I actually enjoyed that period at Leicester because I got to watch the likes of Harvey Barnes and James Maddison every week, and I honestly think, having seen him live in the flesh, 10, 15 times now, even back then, I said to friends, colleagues, I thought he was a top player. And Newcastle have looked at the numbers, that is the word coming back to me. Over the last 3 seasons, Harvey Barnes has scored 37 goals. In that same period, Allan Saint-Maximin has 9. So that speaks volumes alone. But it's not just that. Harvey Barnes is an Eddie Howe type player. He goes in both directions. He goes up, he goes down. He's got a tremendous work ethic, attitude. Everyone you speak to speaks so highly of him in terms of that professionalism. And do you always get that from Saint-Maximin? Well, no, you don't. And this is a player who at times I've loved watching, loved covering. He's been unplayable, He really is. At times he was a cheat code under Steve Bruce. It was incredible, some of the stuff he did, and it's a shame that after 18 months with Eddie Howe, they haven't really found a way to make that work on a regular, consistent basis. And I think this point that which we've arrived at now, for me, always felt inevitable. So for me, I think Harvey Barnes is an upgrade. I think I understand why it's a necessary deal for the club to do, given all of the budgetary restrictions on which I've reported in the recent weeks. So yeah, I'd expect to see movement on St Max in the next few days. He won't be in America, and then we could see, like I say, that Harvey Barnes deal accelerate. Now, that is news with regards to transfers off the pitch. What happened on the pitch there tonight? Well, first of all, the only place to start was a debut for Sandro Tonali. And wow, I thought he was excellent. I really did. Without being overly flashy, he looked such a good player. His very first touch, it was the way he received the ball and got out of his feet to escape a man. He looked composed, he looked classy, he looked confident, he looked as if he had that little bit of a Bruno swagger about him as well, someone who's got absolute belief in their own ability. And while the opening goal will state Elliot Anderson assist, Miguel Almiron with the finish, that owed everything to Tonali's cute little first time pass around the corner to split the lines. And that's what they're saying bring him now. When he first signed, I think we all automatically assumed that he would be that midfield pivot, freeing Bruno Guimaraes to play further up the pitch. From what I saw there tonight and from conversations I had, I don't think that's going to be the case. He started on the right of a midfield 3, and he's got that drive himself to break beyond opponents. And I really would expect to see him make an impact in the final third this season. So it's a massively impressive from him. And the talking points to emerge tonight, well, I mentioned him there, didn't I? Miguel Almiron, the scorer of the opening goal. And was what happened last autumn, was it a purple patch? Well, certainly in the second half of the season, when Almiron only scored twice from New Year onwards, lost his place in the team, and he reverted back to the player we saw more of pre-Eddie Howe. Now, the foundations for that brilliant start last season, of course, when he scored 8 times before the World Cup, were built during a free scoring summer, and he started here with a goal, another confident first time finish, very reminiscent of that little run he had before the World Cup. So yes, so let's hope that we do see him rediscover that, and he's going to have to, with the likely arrival of Barnes. Elliot Anderson again was excellent. I thought tonight he's been my player of the season over the first 2 games. He can play out wide on the left, even though he was in midfield more tonight. And it brings me on to the next player I want to talk about, Anthony Gordon. Now, Anthony Gordon came on in the second half, then I thought, I was going to use the word excellent. He was very good, and he was very good in that I saw a different player physically from the one I saw last season. Now, when Gordon played 45 minutes against Southampton, what time was it, March, April time, I forget, and he came off at half time, and I was that critical? I suppose I was critical of his performance in that I thought he looked miles off the intensity needed for an Eddie Howe Newcastle team. Now, some supporters came back at me, said I was being harsh. Gordon got into good positions, he hit the post. My point was, if he'd been fit and firing, he wouldn't hit the post, he would have scored, because it was a good chance. And I think those on the inside, that was their thought process at the time as well. That was why he was brought off after 45 minutes that day. Come on, and he didn't feature from the start again until the final day of the season down at Chelsea when he looked a little bit better. But that there tonight, as you would expect, as you would hope, after a brilliant summer, going away, player of the tournament, coming back victorious from the under-21 Euros. He could be the proverbial new signing for Newcastle. And yeah, I liked a lot of what I saw there tonight. Other points now, Newcastle lost the lead early in the second half when Bruno Gomes was far too casual. Carl Darlow plays on the ball. I wouldn't attach any blame to Darlow at all when it was Bruno who was sleeping. He had plenty of time to get a touch and get rid of it. For whatever reason, he was too casual. The Rangers forward nipped in and made it 1-1. But before that, in the first half, I thought Newcastle were very good. A massive improvement on Saturday when I thought they were quite poor at Gateshead, and you can see why. It was a much stronger starting 11, wasn't it? So good in the first half. One Rangers observer, as I was walking downstairs at half time, said just as well we don't have to play this level of opposition every week. So I think the home crowd here were impressed with Newcastle. In the second half, it went a little bit flat, didn't it? They lost their way a little bit, and then Alexander Isak, now it wasn't quite the level of his Everton audacity, the assist that day, but the little bit of skill and the drinking room we saw there on the left wing before he drops a lovely sort of cute chipped cross onto the head of Harrison Ashby. Quite what he was doing in the up in the 6-yard box, we don't know, but that'll do Ashby the world of good as well. A little flashed winning header there for 2-1 in overall. It was just about deserved. So Newcastle fly now to the States tomorrow, to Atlanta, where they'll spend a few days before heading over to Philadelphia to kick off the Premier League series this weekend, and I'll be there. One player who might not be there, we don't know yet, is Joe Linton. Now he wasn't here tonight because, of course, convicted of drink driving earlier in the year, so they're still awaiting his visa, his paperwork to come through. They hope he can join the squad come the weekend, but we'll have to wait and see on that front. Yeah, so that's just about it for now. We'll have one last little scan around Ibrox. Now I'm sorry if I've been limping ever so slightly and bouncing between these seats. I took part in the dad's race at the school sports day this morning, and yes, slipped on the start line. Now I looked the part. I had all the gear. My son had just won his previous race quite convincingly, so I'd emerged as something of a pre-race favourite purely on the grounds of genetics, bearing in mind how well my older son did. So yeah, started on the start line, could see the open track in front of me, and then the next thing, my world just entered a period of darkness as I slipped beneath the rain. Had a grass sandwich for breakfast, ended up with another dad on my back, so I've got a couple of bruised knees, a little bit of a limp, and an absolutely battered ego. So yeah, I just thought I'd bring you that tale, and you can tell the sort of different reaction from your children. My middle son, who can take it, you can take me or leave me really. He was I love him a bit, but he was laughing his head off. Whereas my older boy, the one who likes me, he was devastated. I don't know, that was he felt sorry for me. He was just sort of felt a little bit of shame amidst his classmates. But there you go. Hopefully I make a full recovery in time for the flight to America on Friday, when there's lots more content to come here on YouTube, and there'll be loads of stuff at the Daily Mail and Mail Online as well. I'll put some links below from the pieces I've written from tonight's game. If you were here in the stand there behind one of the 8,000 there tonight, it looked fun in the first half. I think everyone seemed a little bit hungover in the second half. It went really quiet after an hour until Ashby came up with a winner. So safe trip back. Keep on watching, guys. Hit like, hit subscribe, and yeah, next video we'll see you out with the States, or perhaps even en route if there's a little bit of news to bring you from when I navigate my way through Heathrow Airport. So okay, take care. See you soon. Bye bye.